The gentleman willingly and freely offered an apology publicly. So should this suffice?
Okay, thank you, Nana. Let me read this. What is legal may keep one out of prison, but it is what is ethical that keeps public trust alive. I want you to keep the word public trust alive. In this light, the debate is not about whether Sammy Gyamfi should be prosecuted. No. It is whether he should be held to ethical standard his own party and he himself have championed for others. Okay? When ethics are enforced only when convenient or dismissed entirely unless tied to a legal breach, then the moral spine of a government collapses.
Where are you reading this from?
I don't need. I just
Classified.
I read this because see, I want the public to understand that when we talk about the issue of Sammy Gyamfi and the rest, I think Monday you asked a question whether people are saying he should be sacked. And I said, oh, if the president should sack him, this will be the consequences. If the president did not, this and then the social media buzz was as if I'm the one calling for his head and all attacks. But see, we are talking about issue of ethics here. And that's why I read what I've read. In the frame of ethics, it is not about what law did the person breach. The moment you reduce it to that, you are losing it. And that's why I said we should take note of the word public trust. Public trust. And the spine of a government. So you see, you may be using legalities to say the person has done anything, has not done anything wrong. But then you risk losing the public trust and the spine of a government may collapse. I will sound a word of caution to President Mahama that with what has happened in the Sammy Gyamfi issue, it clearly brings to the fore the issue of ethical codes that are not binding by law, and then the discretion of what punishment should be meted out is just in the hands of the president. What happens in this case is that because it is a code of conduct that is not legally binding, and whatever punishment that we meted out is the discretion of the president, whichever way the president exercises that discretion, the possibility that a section of the public will disagree with him as to what he has done is high. And if it continues, because this is just the first one, that's what I'm saying, that there are useful lessons here. If this should continue and appointees begin to do things that the public complains about, that they think that it breaches the code of conduct, and then the president, through his discretion, decides to issue out certain punishment. If it grows, and the growing concern among the public is that the kind of punishment the president is issuing to these people, they think that it's not commensurate with what they think the people have done, what that will lead to is the loss of trust in the government. And that is where the collapse of governance comes in. And that is where the party is likely to pay for it in the next election. I believe that this punishment that has been given, there are even die-hard NDC people now who will disagree, who may think that the president has been lenient with Sammy Gyamfi. They have their own views why they think so. So when you leave the punishment to discretion, you also leave room for people to also conclude or come up with arguments that they disagree with whatever punishment you are meting out. And for that reason, they are likely to accuse you of favoritism or any other thing. So I think that the president has shown the commitment to making appointees behave in a certain way. But I think if we leave it in the realm of a code of conduct that is not enforceable because it's a policy by a government, if the president is not careful and his appointees continue to misbehave, maybe after Sammy Gyamfi, maybe a year, you have about 5 or 6 cases that would generate the kind of public uproar that was generated around Sammy Gyamfi's issue. And then the action the president will take also becomes another source of controversy. Then the government will suffer the risk of losing public trust in the minds of several people who may be accusing the president of wrongly or discretionary power that they think that they disagree with. It's the president's discretion. So whatever punishment he issues out, that is what he feels should be done. But the truth of the matter is that the public also have their own expectations of what they think should have been done. And therefore, if any decision the president takes, a lot of members of the public believes that the president has been lenient to somebody, then they will begin to form opinions about how the president is doing his work. So for me, the question I will send to President Mahama this morning is that what he has done shows that he is committed to make sure his appointees behave. I will urge him that instead of this policy, which is not binding by law, the conduct of public officers bill has been sitting in the Attorney General's department.
Yeah.
I will advise the president that to deal with whatever credibility deficits that will affect him if these things should continue for a longer time, the best thing I would suggest to him is that you get Attorney General to work, get a look at that bill again, and they should send it to Parliament to be passed. The benefit of that is that once that bill gets passed, it becomes law.
Yeah.
In that bill, it will be spelled out that if you do A, your punishment will be this. Yeah. If you do B, the punishment will be that. And then when people do things like that and they have to be punished, it's no longer the discretion of the president. So then whatever action that is taken against that person, the president will no longer be blamed. People will no longer be attacking the president that he's favoring somebody above it. Everybody will say you breach a law. And the law says this is the punishment for what you have done. So if you are being punished, it's the law that is punishing you. It's the law that is taking the decision as to what should be done and not the president. And I believe that will save him a lot because the boldness to even launch the code of ethics, he needs to be commended that he realizes that he appointees might do things differently. But there is a crisis there. There's a deficit there that whatever punishment that can be meted are also based on his discretion. Yeah. And the more of these things will happen and how he applies that discretion. If it turns out that a large chunk of the public or a section of the public disagree with the kind of punishment he metes out to people, then the possibility is that there's going to be a loss of public trust in his government. There's going to be the spine of the government is going to be one that people will question. And when it gets to that means that the NDC's chances in 2028 elections really is under threat. And I don't think that that's what the president wants to leave behind. I don't think that's what the NDC wants. So for me, the discretion will always come under scrutiny. And people have their own expectations. So if it is not codified in law that if you do this, you'll be given this punishment. But now it's the president's discretion. No matter how he exercises that discretion, there will be a group of people who will disagree with him. As Doc has said, look, there were civil society organizations who have spoken ahead of this, and they were all asking for investigation, suspension, and all these things. These are civil society organizations. We all know how their words influence society. Yeah. Now, all that they've called for, based on what Felix is telling us, that means that suspension or further investigation is not going to take place. You understand? So those sentiments will be with the CSOs that we thought that the best thing to do was to get investigation or to suspend the gentleman, but none of that have been done. Already, those CSOs, in this particular issue, they have a trust issue with you because what they think should have been done is not what the president has recommended. But if it's the law that says this should be done, nobody's recommendations matters anymore. The law will just be made to work, and everybody will say, okay, it is the law that has been applied to the person in this case. Then the president doesn't suffer that deficit of he is exercising discretion in a way some group of people disagree with him.
Doc,